Welcome back to the exciting video, and what we're talking about today is chord structure, part 2 of our masterclass on theory. So here we go. We are going to talk about chord structure today. This is going to be really cool. And you've heard me say that it's so much easier to understand theory on a piano than it is on a guitar. And you're getting ready to see why I say that. And I believe I mentioned it before. When I teach theory, I always teach on a piano if I have one in the room. And I'm going to show you why right here. So let's just jump into this and move on. So, as you can see up here, I have a C chord. Here's my two blacks. Directly to the left, that is a C. Two blacks, C. If you do not know what the notes are on a piano, starting at C, C, D, E, F. Three black notes to the left, F, G, A, B, C. And it repeats on and on and on. So we have a C chord here, and for this part of the class, the roots will always be black. The thirds will always be red. And the blues will always be the fifths. And you're going to see why we're doing it that way. So we have our C chord. So these are stacked thirds. That's how we make a chord. We stack thirds. So if we start here at our root, the black button, and we count up 3, 1, 2, 3. That is our third. We count up 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Starting on the 1, we always start on the note that we're leaving from. 1, 2, 3. That is our fifth. So the chord of C is a C, E, and G. It will always be, a C major chord will always be in the root position, this structure. This is one of the rules you cannot break. Now, are there other ways to play a C on a piano? Absolutely there is. There is 3 ways total to play a C major. And I'm going to show you those right now. These are called inversions. Why am I jumping into this so quick? Because it's going to help us move along when we get down to the guitar segment on this. So we're still back at C. I just came down 1 octave. 2 blacks to the left is my root. Here's the 3 blacks. This is F right here. I just moved everything down 1 octave. So we stacked our thirds, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This gives us a C major chord. So now let's make a C major on the guitar. On the guitar we have strings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, low E, high E, frets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, and of course 8. See the dots denoting 3, 5, and 7. So let's make a C major real quick. You have this here. Now, we're going to start on the 5th string, 3rd fret. That is a C, and most people know this. Most people know that that is a C. That is our root. So now we're going to put our 3rd down here. Bada bing. Oh, wrong string, sorry. I've been looking at this for a long time because before I record this, I go over all this stuff. So this is starting to all look the same to me at this point. So if I make a mistake, I will catch it, but I may make mistakes laying it down because I've been looking at this board for a while, and it is almost midnight my time. That's what happens when you got to get up and go to work every day. So this is our 3rd right here. Now we have another root, which is right there. Now, like I said, our strings are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But the notes of the strings are E, A, D, G, B, E. So we're starting here on the C. What we have here, this open string, this is a G. So this is actually a 5th. And I'm pushing this all the way down to the end to denote an open string. And this open string here is an E. So we're going to push this red all the way down to the end to denote an open string, which normally I would do with the clear magnets. But for this case, to get us started, I'm doing it that way. So on a piano, to make a chord, all you have to do is stack the thirds. On a guitar, it's not so much stacking thirds on a guitar anymore, because as you can see here, we have 2 roots, 2 thirds, and a fifth. So if we were looking at this on a piano, as you can see, we have root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth. So we'd have to add another root. We'd have to add another third. This is the same thing as that. Now you can play it this way on a piano. It does require 2 hands, but you don't need to, because that is a C major chord. This is a C major chord. And what you have to do on a guitar is every string that is being used has to equal one of these 3 notes to make that chord. Now realistically, this is an E, so this could be another third. So you could play that and play all 6, but you generally, not always, but generally you always want your bass note to be on top when you're playing, especially in open chords. But I said generally, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So normally you would not play that E, you would just start strumming at that C, and you would mute this string with the tuft of your finger. So this is a C, this is a C. Is there another way we can play this C? Absolutely there is. Well, if we got a C, if you haven't seen my video on intervals, and I'm going to mention this probably every single video, because nobody has watched my video on intervals, and you're never going to grab a hold of what we're talking about if you don't understand intervals. And when we get to the modes, if you do not understand intervals, by the time we get to the modes, you will be lost, guaranteed. If you haven't watched the video on intervals, watch the video on intervals, because this is going to be all about intervals, what we're getting ready to do. So let's just move all this off. So this is a C chord. If we're playing a C major, the third must be right there, because the rule says it must be right there by the C major scale. 1, 2, 3, unbreakable. The fifth must be right there, because the C major scale tells us it must be right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on a C major, it always looks like this in root position. Always. So I showed you the C major open chord on a guitar, but can we play it somewhere else? Absolutely we can. If we have our C here, and if we know our intervals in the major scale, which we went over in the first video, we know that that is a fifth. And here again, by the rules of the C major scale, if this is your C, this must be a fifth, always. And it works like that for every single chord. If we move this up to a G, we move this up because that's where the fifth is. That cannot vary for a C major chord. Granted, this is G here, this is C. But or a G major chord or an A major chord, that rule cannot vary. So if you go up 2 and down 1, it is always, always, always a fifth, which is your typical power chord. And you can add another octave on top, another root. But that is your typical power chord, root and fifth. And the beauty of the thing about a power chord is because a power chord can be played for major or minor. Because without the third, you have no idea what you're playing. The only way you know what you're playing is if you understand the key in which you're playing in. That will tell you if the chord is a major or a minor. So that's why you also must know your scales. There's a lot to theory. This isn't sit down, grab a guitar or piano, and just start hauling ass. It simply doesn't work that way. A lot of leg work. But if you do the leg work, the results are tremendous if you do the leg work. So back to our C. 5th string, 3rd fret, because that's the same root we started for open position C. Now we're going to do another C. So we know this must be our 5th, because that's how it is. It has to be there. And we also know that that must be a root, because in the C major scale, that would be number 8. This rule cannot vary. That is our third, our E. Now you could play this C just like this, these 4 notes. Theoretically, you could play all 6 of these because we have 2 open E's, which are our thirds. So if you played all 6, you would have a third, root, fifth, root, third, third. But it would be very muddy sounding. You're adding a bunch of extraneous notes you simply do not need to add. So we could play C this way. You saw the open C that we started with. But let's take this a step further. You could also play a C this way. Fifth, root, third. Now we have an inversion. What is an inversion? An inversion is where you're playing the same 3 notes, but you're playing them in a different sequence. Tonally, it's going to sound the same. Timbre-wise, it will not sound the same. What do I mean by that? Let's say we have a singer, and our singer is singing over the C chord, and she's singing off of the 5th. Fantastic. We got our 5th on top because we want our melody to ride on top. One of the reasons why we want inversions. Well, what if she is singing off of our root? Forget this for a minute. Well, we do our first inversion. We take the C and we move it up an octave. Same 3 notes, first inversion, first position of the C major chord. Now, she can sing off of the root, and we have our root on top. Okay, so what if she was singing off of the third? Second inversion. We take this E, we move this up. Same 3 notes. Second inversion, second position. Now our third is on top. This is the only 3 ways to play a C on a piano, a C major. There's no other way. Root position, first position, second position. Well, there's multiple ways to play a C on a guitar. That's why I teach theory on a piano, because I got to get it here before we start getting into this. So what you're looking at here is basically second inversion on a piano. So this is a C inversion. We have our 5th, root, third, 5th, root, third. This is what it looks like on a piano. This is what it looks like on a guitar. Well, just from this little bit of information, there's a million things we can do from right here using this inversion. So, and this is where if you don't pay attention, it's going to start to get complicated. So if we're playing a C major, and it's C, E, and G, and we want to make that into a C minor, we move our third down a half step. So from this, all we got to do to play C minor, realistically, is that. And that, my friends, is a C minor. Now, could we play it a different way? Well, absolutely. We could play the full C minor chord. And that is a C minor. Boop. Let's get these straightened up here, make it all nice and pretty. That is a C minor. Well, why would we play all this? Why would we not play just that? Glad you asked. That is a very good question. You can play it either way. Usually what's going on here, if you're playing, let's say you're playing an acoustic show, and you need a C minor, this is what you want to play because you want to make it full and fat. Or, in my case, I play in a rock and metal band and I'm the only guitarist. So generally, I would play it like this. Since I'm one guitar player, I want to make it full and fat sounding. So a lot of distortion, bang out that C minor, sounds fantastic. But let's say you're playing in a jazz group, and let's say there's 10 of you guys in there. Well, guess what? Now all this is overkill. Because you might have horns and a bass. You might have another guitar player. You've got your bass player. You got a keyboardist. Now all of a sudden this is overkill. So break it down to its simplest form and just play that. And if you notice, what do we got here? That's a C minor, right? So if we take this, that's an open position A minor chord. Keep that in mind because that is going to become very important. You have certain positions on a guitar, and you can take those positions and you can move them all the way up depending on the notes that you're playing and what you need to close off on the closed and open strings. That is an A minor. So we bring this back up to C minor. So now we have a C minor. All right. So let's make this go back to a C major. Now we're back at a C major. All right. Now, let's move along to the chord of G for this next example. So here's our G. Here's our root, our third, our fifth. We have stacked thirds again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 stacked thirds. So now let's make a G major chord, and we're going to make this open. So we have our root, and because of the way the major scale works on a guitar, if this is our root, remember I said this must be our fifth. This must be our fifth in the G major scale. Nowhere else for it to be. Which means that must be our third. That is our major third. If we move this to G sharp, that is the major third of G sharp. If we move this to A, that is the major third of A, which is going to be C sharp. So that is always our major third. So let's go ahead and make out the chord. So if you remember the strings, we have E, A, D. We have a D, G, B, D. We have a D. So this is an open string, and it is our fifth. E, A, D, G. We got a G here. Well, that's our root. Well, guess what? That's open also. E, A, D, G, B. Man, we got a B here. That's an open string also. And it's a third. And guess what? Because these two strings are the same, that is another root. So this is an open G chord. These strings are open. That's why I've got them pushed all the way against the nut. That is the nut of the guitar right there. So this is an open G chord. Pretty interesting, huh? In order to make these three notes into this chord, all 6 strings, you must turn all 6 of these strings into these 3 notes. So here we have a root, third, and fifth. Here we have a root, a third, a fifth, a root, a third, and a root. So this is a G. So is there another way to play a G on this? Absolutely. There's only 3 ways to play it on a piano. Multiple ways to play it on a guitar, but let's go ahead and just jump off and whip up another one right now. So, like I said, if this is our root, we know that's our root. So that means this must be our fifth because it's the fifth interval. If we do the major scale, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is our fifth. And that will always be our fifth. Like I said, if I move this to G sharp, that is the fifth of G sharp. If I move this back to G, that is the fifth of G, the fifth interval. Watch the video. So we have this C here, this fifth here, so we obviously can't play this third because we're on the same string. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that altogether. And while we're at it, let's get rid of those open strings because we're just going to close this whole thing up. We're going to close it up. So if we follow the major scale and we're making this chord, we know according to the major scale, that is our octave. So that is a root. And if we make the major scale all the way down and we keep counting out our positions, that is a third. That is a B. And then we keep going. Well, what we got here? Well, we got a B here. So we could theoretically play it like this. Be impossible to fret. You can't fret this off with an open string. So we're going to close the string up. So we know this is a B. B, C, D. D is our fifth. Because the strings are E, A, D, G, B, E. So starting with an open B, first fret would be a C. A whole step up would be a D. So this is a G major chord. All right, cool. I like that. another way to play a G. That is true. But let's say we wanted to make a G major 7. Why is that on a black key? Why is that on F sharp? Because the major scale tells us in the G major scale there is an F sharp because of the rule of the G major scale. So now we have an F sharp. So that makes this a G major 7 because we have a major 7th sitting there. So if we lower this down, we have a G7. That would be a G7. If we want to make this minor, we lower the 3rd. That is a G minor 7. But let's take this back to a major chord with a major 7th. In order to major the 7th, you raise it a half step. In order to make it just a regular 7th, a regular G7, you bring it back down a half step. So this is our G major 7 right here. All right, so here's our G chord. Let's say we wanted to make a major 7 out of this. So we have to add an F sharp. Well, let's see. We know this is an F. That's an F sharp right here. So if we count up 2 and down 2, that's an F sharp. So theoretically, we could get rid of this root and put that there. But that would be nearly impossible to fret unless we got rid of that 5th, because we don't need that 5th because we got a 5th right here. And we could simply mute this string with our finger from playing the G. So we could play a G7 like that, G major 7. And that would work. We have all the notes that we need. Root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. Root, 7, 3rd, 5th, root. That would work just fine. Or if we wanted to be a little jazzier and make it a little cooler, remove that. We don't need that root because we got one right here. This is also a G7, G major 7. Very easy to fret this one now. Interesting. So let's go back. But if we were playing full chords, well, we very well could not play that. That'd be nearly impossible if this is our chord position. So let's think about this for a minute. We've got to add that major 7. Now we could play it, like I said, this, and it would work. And get rid of that, and get rid of that. And that would work, because we still have these 4 notes involved here. This is why the pegs are colored. But there's got to be a better way to play it than that. Most people aren't going to play it that way. So let's remove that. Let's rebuild our original chord. And now, oh, sorry, told you, been looking at this a long time. Now let's strip this down to something we're probably a little more familiar with. So let's remove this. We don't need this top root anymore. Let's get rid of this bottom root. Tell you what, for this, let's move the 7th, and look what we got. G major 7, root, 3rd, 5th, root, 3rd, 5th. Same voicing as this. G major 7, G7. Shit, G, sorry. I've been here for hours in front of this board. So we have our G. So now we want to make a G major 7. We want to add that major 7 right there. So this is an E. We know this is an F. So that means this must be an F sharp. Because if this is an F, half step F sharp. And if it repeats on the bottom, this is an E, F, G major 7. And we're playing it from a root position, like we would on a piano. This is the same exact thing as that. Now tell me theory is not beautiful. And I know it kind of sucks starting out, but when you understand it, it's an amazing language when you understand theory. And I seriously get off on this stuff. And honestly, I don't know how long this class is going to go on. This class may go on for years because I can talk theory all the time. But before we continue on, we got to have an ad break, and the ad break is about me. That is correct. It is about me. A lot of time I spend doing this stuff, so please subscribe to my channel. Click subscribe, click the bell so when because you don't want to miss these theory classes, because these theory classes will absolutely change your life in your knowledge of music and how you play the instrument you're playing, be it guitar or piano. It doesn't matter if you play trumpets, theory will help you tremendously. If you play saxophone, you must understand this to get to the other side. So please subscribe to the channel and please click the bell because you do not want to miss this. Also, on that note, for all my subscribers, I am giving away a guitar. Actually, I have a video coming up. Remember I said, the chord I play because I am a single guitar player in a band. We were playing at a show and somebody asked us if we could play Hotel California by the Eagles. And we pulled it off. Brilliantly, I might add. But there's multiple guitar players in the Eagles. So, that solo, I had to break that down to a single guitar player part because I am one guy. So I've got a video coming up and I am actually going to be using the guitar that I am giving away. I am going to show you all how I play Hotel California for the solo guitar player for one guy. How I broke down all the parts. And I did have to change some parts around because they just simply did not sound right without the other harmony part. So I'm going to show you how I did it and it works beautifully. It works fantastic. So that video will be coming up and we will be doing that on the guitar I'm giving away if I hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So if you know anybody who has not subscribed to my channel, if you want a chance to win the guitar, they better start subscribing because we got a long ass way to go. But we also got a lot of time to get there. It's not like we're trying to get there tomorrow. Also, check out my Patreon page. All this theory stuff that I'm doing will be going up onto my Patreon page. You can join for as little as $3 a month. Because like I said, about 2 days after the videos go up, because I've got to go through, rewatch the video on this, because I can't make all the tabs and stuff, and then do this. I mean, I probably could, but it's easier for me to do this than rewatch the videos to make sure that I'm putting up everything correctly. So it takes about 2-3 days afterwards for me to get all this information up onto my Patreon. But that's the only place this stuff is going to be available. And you can join for as little as $3 a month. And for that $3, you're going to get access to tabs, access to all this theory, and you will have access to backing tracks because we have the video coming up where we're going to write guitar solos over a piece that I have written. And that's going to be seriously cool. So check that out, subscribe, click the bell, win a damn guitar, 1070 PBZ, Ibanez. It is a fantastic, amazing guitar. And if you do not know what that guitar is, I have a video on my YouTube channel for the 1070 PBZ, and it is awesome. And yes, I am giving this guitar away myself. This has nothing to do with Ibanez. This has nothing to do with YouTube. The reason it's such a big number is because I'm giving away a very, very nice guitar. So get your friends, get your neighbors, get your brothers, aunts, cousins, whatever to subscribe if you want a chance to win this guitar. Because I want to give this thing away December 31st. Because that's going to be a hell of a Christmas present and a great New Year's Day, a New Year's present for somebody. So, on that note, back to theory. So here is our G major 7. So now I've shown you several ways to play chords on a piano, and you've seen several ways to play chords on a guitar. And it goes on and on and on a guitar. If I had this all the way up for 22 frets, I could just keep knocking out G's all over the place. So let's get rid of our 7s for a minute. And let's think about this realistically. So let's say we're doing this G. Tell you what, let's move this to A major. So we got root 3rd and 5th. So why do we have this major 3rd? Because the major scale tells us, the A major scale tells us this must be a C sharp. So with this little bit of knowledge, let's jump up here to A. We know that's an A. 5th fret, 6th string, this is an A. This must be, because the major scale tells us, this has to be a major 3rd. It can't be anywhere else. It can't be there, can't be there, can't be here, 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 here. Our major 3rd is right there. Now we have multiple major 3rds. But if you go back 1 and down 1, that's always the major 3rd Wherever this moves, that is your major third. All right. So now we need this E. So we can. This is an A right here. That is this. With those three strings. Well, why would I ever play those three strings? You might have a need to only play those three strings and not play the entire chord. So we can play these three. If we're doing a little jazz comping, we can play these three. All right. So we have our A major. A major. And I'm only going to do these three right now so you understand this. So let's say we wanted to make this a suspended fourth. For a suspended four chord, we have an A, C sharp, and an E, root third fifth. A, C sharp, E, root third fifth. For a suspended chord, we raise the third a half step. So if we took this and raised it here and played that fifth down there, that is a suspended four chord. So let's go back to our major. Lower that back down a half step. So let's say we want to play a suspended second. A suspended second, we lower it a full step. Move this back to here. That is a suspended second on a guitar. Let's bring it back to major. Now let's say we wanted to play an A major augmented. If we're playing an augmented, we raise the fifth a half step. Okay. Raise the fifth a half step. That is an A major augmented. Let's go back to A major. Now if we want to make this A minor, yeah, that's great. If we want to make this A minor, we lower the third a half step. That is an A minor. But let's take this one step further. Let's move our A up to here. And we have our A here. This is our A major. Like I said, let's take this one step further. So this is an open A. So we know this is an A, so we don't need that anymore. We already know this is an E from the little example we just had. So there is our fifth. So what's this one going to be here? Well, if we count this out, E, A, D, G. Well, we don't have a G in our A major chord. So we got a G, let's think, G sharp, A. So that is going to be another root. All right. So we have a B. This is an open B. C, C sharp. So that is a third. And we've got an E right here. Got an E. So we have an open fifth. So this is an open A major chord, which is the same exact thing we were playing with this. These three, it's all the same. We have everything we need here to make these three notes in that A major chord. So let's say we want now can we know this and this is open. This is a well, you know, I'm gonna leave it like this because I don't want to complicate the issue. I want to keep everything, make sure we can see everything. So let's say we wanted to make this A an A minor. We lower the third a half step. That makes it an A minor. Let's move it back up to an A major. Now if we wanted to play this A in a suspended fourth, for a suspended fourth, you raise the third a half step. That is a suspended fourth. Remember, open, open. That's why they're against the nut. Let's take this back to an A major. Now we want to play suspended second. We lower it a full step. 1, take it off. 2, it turns it open. That is an A suspended second. So let's go back to A major. Now we're back to our A major. So let's say we wanted to augment this A major. And to augment, you raise the fifth a half step. So what we would have to do is this. Now we're playing an augmented A because this is an open string. This all starts to look the same to me at 12:30 in the morning, which it is now. So there is our augmented A, because we raised the fifth a half step, and I got alarms going off. So if we remove this back, we move this back to an open string, we're back at an A major again. So let's think about this for a minute. So we have an A major. So what if we came up to here? That's an A major. Sure is, because you remember when we had this chord? Our G major? Take it up a full step. Here is our A major. Root third and fifth, root third and fifth. So let's move this one down here now. So here's our A major, here's our A major. So if we wanted to make this a minor, we lower the third a half step. Now we have A minor. So let's go back to major. If we want to make this a suspended fourth, we raise the third a half step. Let's go back to major. If we wanted to make this a suspended second, we lower the third a full step. Suspended second. Let's go back to A major. If we wanted to augment this, we would have to raise the fifth a half step. There's an augmented. Let's go back to A major. If we wanted to make this a half diminished, we lower the fifth a half step. This is a half diminished chord. If we wanted to make this a full diminished chord, we would lower the third a half step and the fifth a half step. That is an A diminished. Let's return back to A major. So let's go to G. So we're going to step back up to G. So now we're back at G, root third and fifth. All right. But you know what? We want to play a full G chord. We don't want to play this anymore. So now, because of our rules we talked about earlier, we know where our root is. That must be, that has to be a third. And we know, since these strings are the same, that those are exactly the same. But guess what? Now we have these open three here again. E, A, D, this is a D. So we have an open fifth. E, A, D, G. Okay, so now we have an open root. E, A, D, G, B. So now we have an open third. So here's our G major chord in open position. So now we want to play G major 7. So what do? If we're going to play G major 7, we know that our root is right there because it is in one octave G. So we lowered that down a half step. G major 7. And what we would do, since we already have a third, we would just get rid of that third altogether and just mute this string off to make our G major 7. So this now would be that. We have our root. This string is muted. Fifth, root, third, seventh. G major 7. So if we wanted to make this a G7, we would lower the the seventh, a half step. Okay, great. But now, let's say we want to make this a G minor 7. So we have to lower I'm sorry, I said third, I meant seventh here. We have to lower the third a half step. Now we got a problem. Because our third is an open string. And we can't lower that a half step. So now we have to rework our entire chord. This is why I love teaching theory on a piano. So much easier to understand. So now we got to rework our entire chord. Because we have to lower the third, which is here, a half step. Now we got a third here, granted. We could lower that third a half step. Leave that there, and mute that string. And that would work. Not exactly sure how the hell you would fret that, because you got to remember, these are open. These are open. So that would be pretty tricky to fret that. So now you got to start looking for workarounds in order to find this chord. So if we go back to our G here, let's get rid of this, this, and all this. And now we wanted to play a G major 7. Bada bing, bada boom. Well, we have this E sitting down here open. E, F, F sharp, G major 7. So, and we're playing root, 3rd, 5th, 7, root, 3rd, 5th, 7. So if we wanted to make this just a G7, we could do that. Be a hell of a stretch. But you could fret it that way. I have fretted it that way. Or, if we wanted to cheat a little bit, we just simply do this and mute this A string and get the same result because we have our other notes right here. But we don't want to do that. Told you, dude, theory's fun. Theory is fun. It's like a never-ending puzzle you have to work all the time. So, we have our G7 right here. There's a bazillion ways on a guitar to come up with chords. On a piano, it's very straightforward. Root, 3rd, 5th. On a guitar, as you can see, there's numerous ways to do these three notes for C. Because we have a root, a 3rd, and then, well, we can't do it here on the C like this. Because if we leave all this open, this makes a C major 7. But if we bring all this around, let's think about this for a minute. Let's think about this. Let's see, E, A, D, G, B. If we got a B here, we go B, C, D, E. C major 7. And I hope you're starting to understand why I teach theory on a piano. Because it becomes a lot very, very fast. And if we didn't want this to be a C major 7 anymore, and we just wanted to make it into just a straight up C, we just move the 7, bring that back in, and now we're back at a C major. So, I hope this gives you an idea about chord structure. Yes, it is a lot. Yes, it is confusing. Yes, we will go over this again and again and again because this is very straightforward here. You have 3 positions. You have your root position, first position, second position. That's it for C major. Here, I can go on and on and on and on and show you C's all day long. We have an A, full step, B, half step, C. Boom, boom. That is a C. That is a C chord. Now we can move this. We can move this anywhere we want to move it. Anywhere these make up, these 3 notes, we can make a chord out of this. We have the open position C. We have the bar chord C, which I just showed you. We have a bar chord C right here. If we take this C and we have this C, and we wanted to make this C minor, we lower the third a half step, and that makes this C minor. If we go back to C major, and yes, I'm trying to drill this into your head, so that's why we keep going over this. If we go back to C major, and we needed to add a seventh onto this C major, and we wanted to make this bing, bada bing, we need a B. We have to add a B into this. Well, think about this. E, A, D, G, B. Well, we got our third here, so we really can't take that, but we got to have a B we can add in there somewhere. Well, we could lower that down, but that'd be incredibly hard to fret that. That'd be extremely hard to fret that. Move that down, that becomes that. Because we have our C right here, we go down a half step for our major 7. And that brings that to there. If we were going to make this a C7, we would flatten that. And that would be your C7. And if you've ever played music and looked at chord charts and all that, you have seen this chord somewhere, guaranteed. You have seen this chord somewhere. And that would be a C7. So, that is not a very quick class, but a class on chord structure. And it gets very, very confusing very fast, especially on a guitar, because we have all these frets, all these strings, all these notes. To on a piano, every 8 keys, it just repeats its 12 or 12 semitones. What do I mean by semitone? If we start here at C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Repeat, 12 semitones. So, to do a quick recap on the chord structure, minus the guitar, just so you can get this in your head. If we have a C, we have stacked thirds, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If we want to make a C, if we want to make a major chord, a minor chord, you lower the third 1/2 step. Take it back to major, raise the third 1/2 step. If we want to make this an augmented chord, we raise the fifth 1/2 step. Back to C major. If we wanted to make this a suspended fourth, we raise the third 1/2 step. If we wanted to make this a suspended second, we lower the third 1 full step. If we wanted to make this a half diminished, we lower the fifth 1/2 step. If we wanted to make this a full diminished, we lower the third and the fifth 1/2 step. That makes that a full diminished chord. If we wanted to make this a major 7, we would stack a major third on top. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That is a major 7. If we wanted to make this into a C minor 7, we would lower the third and the 7 1/2 step to make this into a minor 7. We are back to a C major 7 right here. And you can keep adding and stacking ninths, 13ths, 11ths. You can just keep adding and stacking chords. If you follow your major scale that we went over in the first video, and you learn the intervals, 1, 3, 5, 7, back at 8, 9, and it literally goes on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 octave, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, so on and so on and so on. If you know the intervals and you know the major scale, there's not a single chord in this world you cannot derive either on piano or on guitar. You just have to understand how it works. And it all works based on the major scale of the key that we are in. What do I mean by that? Real quick, and then we will wrap this up. If we go to the key of G, key of G has an F sharp in it. So that is our major 7. If we were going to make this into a minor 7, we would lower the 3rd and we would lower the 7th. If we wanted to make this into a minor G without the 7 on it, we lower the 3rd, major, suspended 4, major, suspended 2nd, major, augmented 5th, major, half diminished, full diminished. And like I said, we could carry this on and on and on. But if you know the major scale and you know the intervals, you can find any chord on piano or any chord on guitar. I know this was long. This was probably confusing because on the front end, theory is very confusing. And I'm going to say it again. Watch my video on intervals. You will need to understand that. If you've seen this part, but you haven't seen part 1 on the scales, you must watch the video on the major and minor scale. It will help you understand everything that I just went over here much better. Now this was a lot of information, and we will revisit this over and over and over again. This isn't going to be one part of theory, move on, because it all ties in together. And the way that I teach, I will always, when I come up here and I'm going to say, okay, we're going to work on modes, but we're going to start in a C major scale, I will always denote everything that I'm doing. So we're starting in the C major scale. So in the C major scale, here's our root, here's our 3rd, here's our 5th, here's our 7th. The rest of them are the rest of the notes. I will always teach like that. You will see this over and over and over again. Because when I was teaching the chitlins, when I was teaching the children, and I taught adults also, the adults caught onto this part much faster. The kids caught onto this part much faster. Very odd how that works. Ah, that felt good. Very odd how that works. But I grind it in. And I keep going, and I keep going, and I keep going. You will see this 1,000 more times. So if you leave this video and you are a little confused, do not worry. We will continue to grind this stuff home because we got to get all this bass in order before we get into advanced stuff. When we start getting into modes, you must know this in order to get to that. On that note, I'm going to wrap this up. Yes, that was long. Yes, that was a lot of information to take in at one time. But guess what? It's theory, baby. There's a lot of information you've got to know if you want to do this correctly. If you want to go from here to here, this is what you must know to get there. So, we will do this again. If you have any questions, drop it into the comments section. Let me know if there's something you don't understand. It's a little different doing this to a camera than as opposed to having a real life person here that I can physically put fingers on spots. It is a little different. If there's something you do not understand, drop me a line and let me know, and we will get that figured out for you. It is very late here where I'm at. As the great Sammy Hagar said, if you miss the beat, you lose the rhythm and nothing falls into place. Well, guess what? Staying in beat and keeping the rhythm doesn't mean shit if you don't understand this. Until the next time, grab your instrument, practice your theory. You can noodle all you want, but on theory time, practice your theory. If you have any questions or comments, leave it down. I always answer them. It may take me a day or two sometimes. I try to do it the day of. Until the next video, part 3 will be coming out very soon. Until the next one, as Billy Joel says, life is a series of hellos and goodbyes, and I'm afraid it is time for goodbye again. Until the next time, guys, rock on.